Royal bombshell: how Queen and Charles have huge power of veto over Boris Johnson. Queen Elizabeth II has used her power of veto to block government legislation, and Prince Charles also has much more significant power of veto than many realize, according to a secret government paper that was released in 2013 after an arduous court battle. Last year, the Queen's constitutional role was under particular scrutiny after questions arose over the prorogation of Parliament and Queen's powers to give or refuse assent to legislation. Although Her Majesty's political opinion remains strictly neutral, the monarch can and does in fact refuse royal assent. However, Prince Charles holds more active power in government than many realize after documents were released that detail Charles' own powers of veto. A court order obtained in 2013 revealed the extent to which the approval of both the Queen and Prince Charles is sought on a range of government bills, and how the royal veto can scupper legislation. The Guardian's Robert Booth reported at the time. Whitehall's papers prepared by Cabinet Office lawyers show that overall at least 39 bills have been subject to the most senior royals' little-known power to consent to or block new laws. They also revealed that the power has been used to torpedo proposed legislation relating to decisions about the country going to war. The internal government pamphlet was released following a 15-month legal dispute in which the Cabinet Office fought against releasing the information. After appealing the initial court order, the Cabinet Office was compelled to release the pamphlet by the Information Tribunal. Mr. Booth explained, ministers and civil servants are obliged to consult the Queen and Prince Charles in greater detail and over more areas of legislation than was previously understood. In the pamphlet, the Parliamentary Council warns civil servants that if consent is not forthcoming, there is a risk a major plank of the bill must be removed. Charles has been asked to consent to 20 pieces of legislation, and this power of veto has been described by constitutional lawyers as a royal nuclear deterrent that may help explain why ministers appear to pay close attention to the views of the senior royals. Parliamentary lawyer Daniel Greenberg commented, "It is something of a nuclear button option that everyone knows he's not likely to push, but like the nuclear deterrent, the fact that it is there influences negotiations. Although the Prince of Wales does not give royal assent in the same way as the Queen does, he still has the power to block legislation relating to the Duchy of Cornwall. The Queen completely vetoed the military actions against Iraq bill in 1999, a private member's bill that sought to transfer the power to authorize military strikes against Iraq from the monarch to Parliament. Currently, the power to send the country to war lies with the Queen as part of her royal prerogative." The information gathered in 2013 show at least 39 bills, including the Civil Partnership Act 2004, the Housing Act 1996, and Fixed Parliament Acts 2010 to 2012, but it is not a complete record of government bills that have required consent from the Queen or Prince of Wales. There is no outcome record for the vast majority of the bills, either with only the military action in the Iraq Bill 1999 showing that it didn't achieve consent. The documents also show how the Queen and Prince Charles have power to veto government action that pertains to the Duchy of Lancaster or the Duchy of Cornwall. The guidance states that the Queen's consent is likely to be needed for laws affecting hereditary revenues, personal property, or personal interest of the Crown, the Duchy of Lancaster or Duchy of Cornwall. Consent is also needed from Prince Charles if legislation affects the Duchy of Cornwall. Mr. Booth commented, "These guidelines effectively mean the Queen and Charles both have power over laws affecting their sources of private income. This means even if the government came to a decision over the funding of Prince Harry and Meghan Markle in the days and weeks to come, Prince Charles has the power to override advice and pay the Duke and Duchess of Sussex from the Duchy of Cornwall, which is technically a public asset." The information was requested by John Kirkhope, a legal scholar who wanted to access the papers as part of his graduate studies. Mr. Kirkhope commented, "There has been an implication that these prerogative powers are quaint and sweet, but actually there is real influence and real power, albeit unaccountable. Andrew George, Liberal Democrat MP at the time for St Ives in Cornwall, said the duchy asserts that it's merely a private estate. Most people will be astonished to learn that it appears to have effective powers of veto over the government. Lord Berkeley, who was instructed to seek Charles' consent in 2011 on a marine navigation bill, commented, "We should know why he's been asked, and the government should publish the answers. If he's given these powers purely because he owns the land in Cornwall, it's pretty stupid. What about the other landowners who must also be affected by changes to legislation?" A Buckingham Palace spokeswoman said it is a long-established convention that the Queen is asked by Parliament to provide consent to those bills, which Parliament has decided would affect Crown interest. The Sovereign has not refused to consent to any bill affecting Crown interest unless advised to do so by ministers. A spokesman for Charles said, "In modern times, the Prince of Wales has never refused to consent to any bill affecting Duchy of Cornwall interest unless advised to do so by ministers. Every instance of the Prince's consent having been sought and giving to legislation is a matter of public record. A private member's bill was introduced in 2014 that aimed to take away Charles' power of veto. However, it was defeated on its second reading."